valuable target. Our expert advises you to include your neighbors in your planning and help them develop their own to increase your chances of survival.
Well, I don't really agree with that. We have a lot of support from our neighbors. There's a lot of people who would come to us expecting us to help, and what our position would be to do is, because we know what they should be doing, is direct their energies, because we need to work together as a community and get through 2012.
Although Dennis disagrees with the assessment, he has subsequently met with more neighbors, inviting them over for tours of his pool and teaching them prepper strategies. Lisa Bedford and her family live in the suburbs of Phoenix, but she's not a typical suburban soccer mom carpooling her kids to games.
We have no other interest or purpose in life other than preparing for some Armageddon.
She is busy prepping her family for the end of the world.
I want my kids to do all the fun things that kids should do, but I also want them to learn practical skills.
But has she done enough?
I don't know how I'm going to eat this when the world ends.
Lisa Bedford and her husband have a daughter, son, cat, and dog. They are a typical suburban Phoenix family, except
I'm afraid our country faces serious hyperinflation.
they are preppers.
I think to a non-prepper, what we do would seem like an obsession. But I'm not obsessed by anything. I'm just prepping for collapse of the economy, bringing on hyperinflation and higher prices. Our family started prepping close to 3 years ago. We began to see friends lose jobs, the price of gasoline going up, the price of electricity going up, the very basics that we need to survive, those prices just skyrocketing. And we realized that there really could be something very significant and very serious coming to end the days of a very prosperous America. So we took that gut feeling and we began to just act on it. And we first started out just by going to the grocery store and buying everyday groceries. Okay, I think we're good on tomato soup and chicken noodle soup. I began to do research, and that's when I realized I needed to stock up on basics like wheat and rice, add that to my food storage. Now, don't overflow it. We've used soda bottles for a long time. FEMA gives their official approval for this kind of plastic for food storage.
I don't know how I'm going to eat this when the world ends.
The world's not going to end.
You act like it.
No, it's not going to end. We involve our kids in what we do simply by not having it be anything abnormal or out of the ordinary. If I ever yell, "Get your bug-out bags, kids," you'll know what to do. People call me a suburban prepper, but I really prefer to think of myself as just your typical suburban mom who has an eye on the future. And I like to think that I can prepare for the future just a little bit every day.
The prepper movement is growing exponentially. Stores that once only sold to restaurants are now welcoming individuals who are trying to stock up. Today, Lisa shops at Honeyville Farms, a store that caters specifically to her slightly extreme freeze-dried, dehydrated, and bulk needs.
How many people are in your family?
Okay, four.
Four.
2 kids.
Okay. Initially, we started selling to bakeries, tortillerias, restaurants, and in the last few years, we've tried to target the customer who's the prepper. So you got 4 months on hand.
I do.
Good. And what's your goal? How long are you wanting to do
But you know what? Probably the big long-term goal would be a year.
The people who are looking for bulk items and freeze-dried fruits, vegetables, the freeze-dried meats, things like that, it'll last a long time. We're talking about 10 to 15 years on most of this stuff. And you can freeze-dry almost anything. There's a lot more people who are very urgent about getting to that stage of preparation because they feel like something's coming. Probably the craziest order I've seen is a single man wanted an entire truckload of wheat. So that's 45,000 pounds of wheat just to store for himself. So a pallet about this size would be able to feed a family of 4 for a year, and that's about 1,200 calories. So that's not very much. So with 2 of those, that'd be closer to what your family would need.
Okay, that's what I want.
Many preppers believe that 4 to 6 months of extra food and water are the basic provisions necessary to survive a major disaster. But for some, finding alternative currency options is just as important.
I've covered my bases for a lot of standard scenarios, but really the biggest disaster is hyperinflation. And so what we have done is just invest in precious metals, physical silver and gold. We've heard that buying junk silver is maybe a good hedge against inflation.
90% silver, that would be U.S. coinage, dated 1964 and earlier. They have 90% silver. It is one of the cheapest ways to buy silver. Today with silver at a little over $30 the ounce. One of these guys here would run you about $5.30 a piece, roughly. This here, you know, $3,000 worth of silver, or you can have this all these bags, and you can trade in 1 or 2 or 3 at a time. Oh, okay. So this bag has 400 quarters in it. It's $100 face value. And at today's market price, that would put it right around $2,150.
That bag is $2,150.
Yep. I'm a firm believer that the value of the dollar is headed down.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then this stuff's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So look at that.
Here's $20. There's 4 quarters.
How about that?
The suburban moms don't want to think of a time when their safe and secure neighborhood might not be so safe and secure. But in a time of hyperinflation, desperate people, large numbers of people out of work, and prices just skyrocketing beyond what anyone can afford, even the safest neighborhoods may not be so safe anymore. We take the kids out shooting maybe once a month, sometimes twice a month if the weather's nice. Okay, so hold that just like Daddy showed you. Okay, you got it right in the middle. Very nice, very good. Currently, we feel safe in our neighborhood. Point it down that way, but there is a concern. If our currency should collapse, if there would be hyperinflation, that we might see an increase in home invasions. We might see an increase in violent crimes, just as people become more desperate. I want my kids to do all the fun things that kids should do, but I also want them to learn practical skills. If everything hits the fan, they're going to be ready with these shooting skills to either hunting or to use for self-defense.
Self-defense training is crucial, but in a world gone mad, preppers believe that those who remain hidden and are not perceived as resource-rich targets will be the ones to survive. That sometimes might mean getting food delivered at night.
OPSEC stands for Operational Security. It's a military term, and it just means keeping your lips zipped. Loose lips sink ships. And so for us, we really don't talk a whole lot about what we do. I don't want my household and my family to be in the middle of someone else's bullseye as they wonder where they're going to get their next meal and realize, oh, the Bedfords have it. The truth is, we are more like the typical average family than not.
Lisa, our expert feels that you have stored enough food to withstand the destabilizing and debilitating effects of hyperinflation for an initial 4 to 6 month period, and are aggressively working to extend that to a full year. Most importantly, you've begun to purchase precious metals as a hedge against the unchecked inflation you fear. But while focusing on hyperinflation, you have not totally planned for other disasters and developed adequate evacuation plans, nor chosen a location to move to if your house is threatened.
It would take a lot for us to decide to bug out, given the constraints we have with geography and climate. We happen to live surrounded by miles and miles and miles of desert with not a whole lot of routes out of Phoenix. 100,000 people trying to get out of Phoenix in the summer, it would be a death trap.
Lisa has chosen to ignore our experts' advice. She feels that because Phoenix is surrounded by miles of desert, and there are only 3 or 4 major exit routes, that additional evacuation plans would be fruitless. In rural South Carolina, the Koblers and Hunts have united their families to live, work, and fight together.
To be able to shoot any weapon that our retreat group has is a must.
In the belief that we are on the precipice of worldwide economic collapse, they make their own food.
It's making good gas right now, so we can start the truck.
Build their own vehicles, and each, if the time should come, is prepared to defend their farm to the death.
Lord, you blessed us with a beautiful day. We thank you for our friends. We thank you for the Koblers. Amen.
All right, eat.
Yes. David Kobler and Scott Hunt are best friends, and their families are extremely close.
All right, bon appetit.
They cook together, eat together, and prep together.
I have prepped for a collapse of the financial system. This will cause crime to increase, hunger to increase, and a complete breakdown of law and order. It will happen here.
David is a committed prepper who lives in rural South Carolina. If the total economic meltdown he fears occurs, he and 4 other like-minded families plan to leave behind all their worldly possessions and link up at a farm about 20 minutes from David's house to form their own prepper community.
I don't fear anything, I prepare. By preparing, it takes care of the fear problem. Scott, he is an excellent guy. You can give him a pile of junk and he will make something useful out of it. That's why I've decided to team up with him and put my life in his hand, and he has put his life in my hands.
Hey, Dave, made it. Hey, Scott. David's expertise is in the tactical, being ex-military, having a lot of skills, a lot of training in that area.
All right, your weapon is clear. Go ahead and reholster.
Mine is in engineering. Mine is in designing all sorts of gizmos.
While in Iraq at the beginning of the invasion, I saw true hunger. I saw people fighting over my scraps, my garbage.
David believes American supermarkets could not stay stocked and people could not afford food if the economy collapsed. So he's taken just a few precautionary measures to prepare for this eventuality.
I probably have about $6,000 or $7,000 in food. I am probably not an overboard prepper. It has taken me about 2 years to get to this point of having this amount of food. I started just with canned goods that you normally buy at the grocery store, whatever you eat. And it worked out from there to now I'm stocking long-term storage food, dehydrated food. A big thing that you need to make sure you stock is toilet paper. It's used by everyone in the world. We stock a 2-year supply of toilet paper, more toilet paper.
Man, that's a good idea. Dave's food supply is over the top, but that's been a good thing because it's motivated me to catch up to him. Our plans for food range from long-term food storage to what I've been working on for several years is growing our own food. We're able to grow everything from wheat to corn to all sorts of vegetables.
In anticipation of commodities prices skyrocketing, they raise cows for milk, chickens for eggs, and can slaughter either for their meat. Scott grows 1,200 pounds of wheat a year, and to make up for any shortfall of available flour, he puts his 10-year-old daughter Sarah and her much older bicycle to work.
Okay. Mommy need about 4 cups. My daughter is now grinding this wheat on our bicycle wheat grinder I built. It's a lot of work to hand grind. It's a lot easier to pedal it with a bicycle. And so we're grinding this today, and we're going to make bread from it tomorrow.
Of course, preppers don't live on bread alone. So with a fan, a broken refrigerator, plenty of duct tape, and some ingenuity, Scott has built a contraption to make the ultimate survival food.
I'm looking forward to this batch.
Beef jerky.
I take hot water from my wood boiler outside and bring water in here at about 180 degrees into the heat exchanger. The fan blows across that heat exchanger and the hot air travels into an old refrigerator. And so all the hot air blows across, and then we just close it up. We allow a little bit of air to escape, and in 4 hours we'll be eating jerky. We don't do this out of fear. This is a lifestyle for us. We enjoy having a year's supply of food. It gives my children a sense of security.
A human being can only stay alive for a week without water. Scott understands that access to it is crucial for their survival.
We have 3 different sources of water and 5 different ways to pump the water up the hill. Without good water, you're not going to survive long. We have the hydraulic ram pumps to pump water up on the hill. We have springs. Here's a solar panel that I use to pump water out of a spring, and then a drilled well that I can get drinking water out of that with a hand pump. And so I know that I can get water out of the ground for my family.
If our economy totally collapses, oil, gas, and electricity could become prohibitively expensive, or even